Hey gang, today we're having a look at the Lansky sharpening system. I'm going to talk you through what it is. This is the base model here. I'm going to show you the expansions that I recommend getting and just do a bit of demonstration, just an overall review of it. This is basically one of the lower end angled sharpening systems that you can get. It doesn't have the features of, say, the ones that you see all the the big knife YouTubers using, like the Apostle P or Birdshot and all that sort of thing. It's not like a KME or a Wicked Edge or anything like that. It's much more basic, but you can still get some really good results, especially if you're just like an average user like myself. So let's get into it. I'll take it down to the tabletop just for ease of explanation. Alrighty, so this is your basic kit. All it's missing from this is the sticks, which sit up here, the rods, and they are the things that attach to these stones here. So this is a fully assembled rod and stone system. So, I guess in most basic terms, this is an angle sharpener that lets you choose between one of these angles, 30, 25, 20 and 17. And it obviously takes the knife in its jaws. And then you use the rod system to choose your angle. And then you work away at the knife like so. I will set it up, don't stress. So that's its most basic explanation of it. Various grits of stone. This is in the advanced or the pro kit, I think. This is all just ceramic stone still. So it doesn't come with any diamonds. You can get a diamond kit, and I have a diamond stone here, and I'm probably going to get a couple more. So this is just like your kit to solve any sort of, I've done steels up to S35 VM with these and not had any real issues. Once I was past that point to CTS XHP, I did find that the diamond stone, especially when reprofiling, which we'll talk about in a second, really did help speed up the process a bit. Still possible, just saves you some time. You also get this honing oil, which whilst you don't need to use this oil, I have been using it just as part of the review. It's a bit stinky, but it seems to do just fine at keeping the stones lubricated so they travel easier over the knife surfaces, and keeping the metal shavings from, completely binding everything up. Because you do remove a fair bit of material, especially when you first start using this on a knife, because there'll be often a bit of reprofiling to do. So the grits of the stones are, and you can probably see just from the surfaces of them, how they increase in roughness. So you've got here, and they do say what they are in the back. So you've got here an extra coarse, which is a 70 grit stone. That will be mainly used for reprofiling, so forcing one of these angles onto your knife if it doesn't already have that angle. And that's what I've done on most of my knives that I've used on it so far. This is 120. This is often a good starting point if you don't need to do that reprofiling. 120 grit there. This is 200, so this is probably where you might just start with your touch-ups. This is 600, which feels much smoother than, say, my 700 grit bench stone, but I'm sure it's the same. So that's a fine stone. This might just be for re-honing. And then you've got what is really this kit's polishing stone, which is this yellow one here, and this is the 1000 grit. This shit on here is just oil, so whilst I can't get it back to its original white color, you can sort of clean that off from time to time. I'm not too bothered because it a quick wipe down and it's all good. It's never going to look perfect for too long. So there you go. So that's what you get in your basic kit, and then you get 5 rods to hold all these stones. My rods are set up on other stones at the moment. What I will show you now is just a brief clip of me actually using the device, giving you a rough idea of how it works. This is just using a sapphire honing stone. I'll go through the other stones I've got in a second. Because this knife's already sharp, I'm just kind of showing you the motions. If you want to see a full demo of me getting the knife sharp, watch my steel review on this LC200N that I uploaded the other day. And you can of course just switch it over, and because it is uniform in there, you can just switch it over and use the other side, so you don't have to take the knife out of the guide at any stage, which is cool, and which is really what these angle sharpening systems are ideal for just the simplicity of that portion of the process. So you're not going to take it off and slightly redo it, so it's slightly separate from how it is to change the angles slightly, because all that stuff does kind of matter. So anyway, this is the basics of how it works. So I'm holding it in my hand, just using the stone. So this is the capabilities of this basic kit. However, extra stuff that I have got. Just prop that up there. So I got some extra stones, and I also got this base. This base can then sit in this larger hole here. Sit down there, and it just kind of sits there. I find I still need to hold it, and I just kind of push it downwards towards the table, and then you can, a little bit more stably and for a little bit longer time before it gets annoying, do this. So no problems at all with that. Not a bad investment. It's about $12 or so for this base. It's made of steel, comes apart, breaks down. You can store it pretty well. I just carry all the stuff in a little bag. So that's one thing that I've got that's an extra. Another thing that I would suggest carrying is a Swiss Army knife, and I'll show you why in a second, and a Sharpie, because a Sharpie is good for seeing how you are removing stock. When you first get a knife, chances are it won't have exactly one of these angles on it. So what you generally do is you colour in the edge with the Sharpie. So say if I was going to do this police, I would colour this in. This already has the 17-degree edge on it, but I would colour that in, and then I would use the 17-degree stone, and you'll be able to see as this gets wiped off how it's cutting. So there we go. So I'd recommend carrying one of those. This I recommend because the kit does come with an extra screw, which is this one here. The main reason is that this extra screw is essential. I would suggest getting rid of this one entirely, is because when you are doing your lower angles, which I'll show you here. So say when you want to start doing 17 degrees, you will find your stone colliding with that front red knocker. And just a little bit annoying, because whilst you can just slide back and just use the front of the stone for your 17 degrees, it is nicer when you can just use the whole glide. Larger kitchen knives, you would be able to do that, except you'd keep hitting this. So you unscrew this one. So these two just hold it in place. So you unscrew this one, and then you use, and I would say you probably won't come back to this, you probably will leave just this out in your kit. Then you go back to this one here. So this is just a standard flat screw, a lot less clearance space over it once it's fully tied down. And yeah, your Swiss Army knife driver will just be to tighten that down over your knife blade. So that's one thing I would suggest, just having a good, even if whether it's not this is just good because it's compact. So then you can really sort of tighten down on your knife and keep it really snug. So that's definitely something I'd recommend carrying, as well as some other stones. So what other stones do I have so far? These are ones that do not come with the kit. I have a sapphire hone. This is a 2000 grit polishing hone. I have an Arkansas stone, which came in a kit, and frankly I'm not quite sure what the benefit of this is over just the standard 200. This is a 300 grit soft Arkansas stone. On rougher edge knives, like with toothier edges, you might just do this one and stop at this, I guess. I'm yet to experiment with it. This is my 250 grit diamond, so medium diamond, and this is good for your, I found anything CTS XHP and above, you really need this to do that first cut with it, that first sharpen, because you do need to take a bit of material off to get it in line with these angles again, as I've said. So the diamond is really, really good for doing that quickly. This is medium. I've also got a large and a fine on the way. I've sort of committed to the system. I really, really do enjoy it. Then I've got this leather strop, sorry. This one you just use a downward motion only, and this does really bring out the nice bit of polish. And then I've also got this rounded stone here, which is for recurves. So you can follow recurves around with the rounded stone and sort of manipulate it and twist it. I don't have any recurve knives, but not too bad. It's a 280 grit medium curved stone, so that's pretty cool there. For the hone, I would recommend getting a polishing compound of sort. This is just Josco white compound, and just on the hone before I use it, gets pretty good results. So what are the benefits of this system? Well, the benefits are it's cheap angled system for pretty much anyone that you can gradually build up over time. Even a basic KME system was probably going to cost about 3 or 4 times as much of this, and that's before you start getting all of your other extensions. New hones, specific hones, I've seen in Australia for about $25 per hone. Depending on the sort. So I've got some diamond ones on the way, they're a bit pricier, but just sort of replacement, or the sapphire ones, I think about $20, diamond's probably about $35, Arkansas is about $30, the Strop is about $12, different prices, so you can gradually build up, but even with the basic kit, which, remembering these 5 stones here, you really can get some near mirror polishes on your knives and get them properly whittling hair nice and sharp. So it's a really good value system, and it really does do all those things as long as you don't need to have really specific angles. A really good idea would be perhaps even like a 17 degree primary grind on a kitchen knife, but then put a 20 or 25 degree micro bevel right on the edge of it. So you do have a bit of flexibility, but not the complete flexibility of those advanced kits. It's also a little bit janky, like as in, you know, the whole thing's a bit rickety. It's fine. It's, yeah, as long as you've got a steady hand, but you know, these knock about in here a bit. Of course, when you're actually using it, you're putting downward pressure, so it is just kind of strafely along the top of the cutout, but yeah, it's all just a little bit rickety compared to those really slick KME systems you see with that swiveling jaws, all that sort of stuff. So you definitely do get what you pay for with those more advanced systems, but what I am saying is if you are happy to put in a bit of effort, with this Lansky system, you can get some crazy sharp knives. Like this Spidey Chef here yesterday, it's done more cuts than, it does way more cuts than I can get when I use the Tormek or use the Workshop on it for sure. And that's, you know, with this quite inexpensive system. So this is cheaper than the Tormek or the Workshop, and you can get better edges, it just takes time. So, what are the bad things about this knife? Well, first of all, I guess the first thing to note was that I had to re-glue these rubber jaw attachments down. The glue that was holding them on started to move around and came unstuck within my first few uses. So I've just kind of overdone the stupid glue on here, and they've been absolutely fine since then. But yeah, whatever resin they're using at first, not super good. So it's these needed to be re-glued because the knife was starting to move around because the jaws weren't completely stuck on. So that was one little thing. Another thing is, even with this screw in there, it is still sometimes a bit tricky to get like the really shallow angles on knives unless they've got really broad faces. This Spyderco here, I had to hold up here to get it because it really does. It really, and that was frustrating because of that jaw problem I was saying before. It really does kind of stretch the limits of what the stones can do. So say at the 17, so pop it in there. So you start hitting onto that top, not there sometimes. So you almost want the, I mean, you screw this one in as well, and that's fine. So it will end up happening, but you kind of end up almost just using the tip of it, and it's a bit cumbersome. So not ideal. So not, 17 degree sharpening. Generally, I think they're after blades that are like Santoku blades or something like that. I managed it with this police, it was just a bit annoying. And really, 17 degrees is a very delicate edge to have. The only reason this police can manage it is because it's using K390 steel, which is particularly good at high angles, I've found. Most of my other knives, pretty much all my other knives, even this Spidey Chef that cut so well, or right now the knife I've just done, this American Lawman, which I've just done on this one as well. You can see it's got more or less a mirror edge there. 20 degrees, and it's absolutely fine. One of the other questions I had in the comments were, thinner knives like this. So say this Boker here, really tricky to get even to the 20 on these really thin blades sometimes. It's good to have a flat part on there, that does help a bit. And generally you apply the jaws sort of about halfway along the knife there, so you get like even coverage with the rods. But even with this, say this Boker here, once it's on, you find yourself, it's almost a little short. The blade it does best with blades that are probably about that tall rather than this tall. So just something to think about. You can manage, you can do it, but it's just a bit of a tricky process, that's all. So that's a bit of criticism as well, I guess. So say for my Almar Falcon, I had to actually settle at 25 degrees for this one because it's just such a short blade. that it was just the rod was just knocking into too much of this stuff to be able to get it from this point, so I had to go from this point. It's sharp, but it's not what I wanted it, so a bit of a bummer there. But yeah, what I'm getting at is that about 80% of your knives it'll be able to bring up to as sharp as you'd ever want them. In a couple of circumstances when you want to make it 17 degrees and it's not quite tall enough, like this is probably just on the cusp. This Spyderco Police was just on the cusp. When you need to make a shallower blade than that 17 degrees, it's going to be tricky. And also when you need to make a really short blade, so a blade with a short face, even at 20 degrees, I found a little bit tricky. So there's that. But overall, it's a nice little modular system that you can sort of pick up, put down. Takes about half an hour per knife, I would say. Yeah, another question was, what do you do if your knife factory bevel doesn't match the presets? Well, you reprofile. So that's what those coarse stones or what the diamond stones are for. You just reprofile. This is a much taller bevel than the American Lawman comes in. It's stable enough because it's CTS XHP, it's fine, and it's actually not super thin behind the edge even still. But yeah, it has been elongated just a little bit to accommodate the Lansky system, rather than having the Lansky system accommodate the knife. So that's kind of what you have to do. But yeah, apart from that, for about probably $70 you can get this really good basic kit, and that'll do, as I said, great edges on pretty much all of your knives, unless they're really shallow. And yeah, a little bit extra cash and you can get some really good stones going. So these three here I would say indispensable. This is a nice little bonus, and you know, probably won't ever use that one because I don't buy recurve knives, but you know, for extra little bit of money you can spend, you know, make your system a little bit better, beef it up a little bit, and you probably have a pretty good time on this Lansky system. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching my review on it, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye now.